The Tao of Self-Confidence, episode 896. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. Visit our website at thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Your inner journey to self-confidence awaits. You can now purchase The Tao of Self-Confidence, a guide to moving beyond trauma and awakening the leader within on Amazon, Barnes & Noble's, Walmart, Indigo, and other major book retailers. Get your copy today. Well, hello, friend. Welcome to The Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. I'm your host today, Sheena Yap Chan, and today I have another amazing lady on the show today. She is part of the advisory board for USPAACC WISE, and I'm super excited to have her on today to share her story on confidence. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Sherry Lee Singh. Sherry Lee, how are you today? Maybe you can fill in a little bit more about yourself to the listeners.
Thank you so much, Sheena, for having me on your show today. I go by Sherry Singh, and I am a development professional. I've worked across business development, entrepreneurship, supply chain linkages, and I've worked in philanthropy as well as in corporate. I've been fortunate across my career to work and travel across the world, working with small entrepreneurs to large businesses to unlock inclusion in the supply chain. Food and agriculture and gender have been two important pillars in my work over the years, and today I lead supplier diversity and inclusion at Walmart. I first joined Walmart in 2012, and I've been with the company in Bentonville, Arkansas since 2016.
Thanks for sharing them. That's so awesome. And fun fact, my first part-time job was actually at Walmart in Toronto. So yes, I was a sales associate. I was a customer service manager. So it was really cool to see my current book at being sold at Walmart. So it's kind of just like full circle. So it's really cool to know that you also work for Walmart, because I also worked for them when I was in high school. And Sherry, what's your cultural background?
I love this question, Sheena. And I think in our society today, with a lot of global movement of people, that it's important that we ask that question. How do you identify? Tell me more about your culture. Are you willing to share more about your family? I think it allows people who may present in one way, and I am a person that sometimes maybe to someone who does not know me or my background present in one way, but identify in another to really share their authentic story with you. And I think that's so, so important. So for myself, I'm African over many generations. I consider myself a Black person of mixed racial descent, which includes Asian descent. I'm indigenous to South Africa, so all of my family are in South Africa. And while we identify as Black South African, we're also mixed with many races that came to South Africa through colonialism. I enjoy these multifacets of my culture as they've enriched my life in many ways, from a shared understanding to religious tolerance to multicultural appreciation. I think that my heritage and my upbringing has made me a more astute global traveler, a better friend, and a more thoughtful connector.
Thanks for sharing that. And Sherry, what would be your favorite self-confidence quote?
Well, my favorite quote actually comes from Mahatma Gandhi. He had a special story in my town. It's actually one of the places in South Africa where he was thrown off the train in my hometown of Pietermaritzburg. And there was always a statue of Gandhi in the middle of town. And I always was fascinated with his history. And he had a quote that was, "Be the change that you want to see in the world." I love that quote. And I think recently President Obama put a new spin on it, right? He came out with one that is his that says, former President Obama, that you are the change that you are waiting for. In these quotes, I find agency, I find empowerment, I find self-starting, and I find a call to action and a call to accountability. And it's both moving and refreshing, right? So where do I start? I start with me. We're the change that we're looking for.
I love those quotes, and it's so true. If we want change to happen, it really starts with ourselves instead of, sometimes we feel like we need someone to make things happen, to create a positive impact, but really it could start with ourselves, and we can create a movement and create that impact that we want to see. So thanks for sharing that great quote. And Sherry, in your own words, how do you define self-confidence?
I think there's a enormous sense of self-confidence that comes from knowing who you are in a shared identity. For me, that shared identity is my family and especially my grandparents. I've always sought to know them and their histories as much as possible. I keep their photos around the house. I even tuck them away in books and I open them and I go back to them. I talk to my daughter, who's now a teenager, about their lives and about how they shape me often. I pass down stories so that she can start to take that history and that sense of self confidence in who she is into her own life. I want her to have a sense of place and a sense of belonging. And for me, that's in her people. I think you feel connected at the root and then you grow in comfort in your own skin. I also have a faith quote that helps me with self confidence, which is to trust the God of your history. When I think of what I have overcome through God and my faith journey bringing me through, I remember those things and it helps me to make today's challenges contextualized. And they may even seem smaller or at least achievable when you look back at what you've come through. When you're down, always looking at your history, looking at where you've been, what you've come through, and then remembering how you overcame challenges and obstacles, and then also who did it with you, because we truly don't do it alone. And then giving yourself grace to keep pushing forward. So know yourself, interrogate your roots, feel rooted in your roots, and then also remember your history and your story and use that to fuel your future.
Thanks so much for sharing that great definition. And Sherry, what was your life like before your discovery of self-confidence?
Maybe like many people, I listened and I took in a lot more about what others thought. I do that less today. I rarely recognize that we are on our own unique journey. I'm not keeping up with my neighbor. I'm more in tune with the questions around what is my life purpose? What does a meaningful and a happy life mean to me? What do I need to work on to bring my own vision and my own values alignment into place every day? So I'm much more comfortable with this part, the solo journey, which is uniquely ours and no one else's.
Thanks for sharing that. I know sometimes we like to compare our journey to other people's, our chapter one to their chapter 20, but really we're all on our own journey. And I believe everything happens for a reason, the good, the bad, the ugly. They all are part of it because when you look back, you will understand why you did why things happened for a reason. And Sherry, what was that point in your life when you realized, you were more than enough to go out there and be the change that you wanted to see? Also, being able to be able to work for a company that prides in having leadership like yourself, what made you realize you were more than enough to go out there and take that leap?
Yeah, I've been reflecting on this, and 20 years ago, this year in July, I won this fantastic scholarship. I went to the finals, I gave it my all, and I came home that evening and we were living in a really small apartment near campus. I was sharing a bedroom with my cousin who was also studying at the same time on campus with me. And I remember smiling. I didn't know the outcome at that point in the day, but I had this sense that I gave something my all, and I was so happy about how well I competed. A little later, the phone rang and I got the scholarship. But what I always took from this moment is that there was a satisfaction that came just from being in the race and giving it your all. I was at that point just genuinely proud. I think that I try to carry that feeling through. Number one, always asking myself, am I showing up? And number two, am I giving it my all? Show up, give it your best. It works every time. Because even if you don't win, and I did play over in my mind that day, what if I didn't win? Would I still be smiling? And I think, for me, I like to answer that question as yes, because you're in it. You're invested, and if you're in it and you're invested, that means you're moving. And I think movement in itself is success.
I love that. I love that you mentioned giving it your all because, especially as women, one of the reasons why we have low self-confidence is because of inaction. So we don't even bother trying because we think we're not good enough or there's someone out there who's done it better. But when we just go out there and give it our all, you'd be surprised what the results are, right? And there's been, tests about this, experiments, studies where when women just go out there and put the effort, try their best, just take action, we actually do a lot better than men. It's just because of how we perceive ourselves that really stops us from moving forward. So I love that you mentioned that, just going out there, giving it your all, and it led you to where you are today. And because of that, what's your life been like now?
I am truly, truly appreciative. I spent the first 14 years of my education in segregated education. I believe in, just the good fortune of timing. And so when I was a teenager, my country where I was born opened up and there was a lot of goodwill towards it. And so I could take academics and something that I was always invested in and really take it to a next level. I could compete, for fellowships, for scholarships, and it changed my life. And I always look back in gratitude in terms of being alive at that moment, being on that wave of change. And I think all the time about how am I paying that forward? Because I truly, truly see that my life, just because of opportunity, changed to be something completely different. And I value that. And so I think about, how do we unlock opportunity for others? Because it does take a network, it takes an open door. And in the seats that we all hold, we can open doors for others. And so how do you continue to pay that forward and be that change so that someone else's life can be transformed?
Thanks for sharing that. And, to the woman who's listening to your episode, she may be in her own journey to self-confidence. What would be that one tip you'd give to her?
That we all have innate capabilities. And the question is, I have these innate capabilities. Am I willing to exercise them? And it's not to prove anything to anyone else, but to prove something to yourself, right? To what you were mentioning earlier, you're capable, embrace that. You are your greatest competition. When you figure that part out, the rest is easy. Just be the best you, push your limits, feed your joy. I'm always out here and I'm admiring other people's gifts. You sit next to someone and they deliver something and it just has that extra to it. And you're like, man, you're talented, that's exciting. And you can admire someone else's gift every day. It's inspiration, but also stay connected to your own purpose and your own gifts and be working on those daily as well.
Thanks for sharing that great tip. And if our listeners wanted to get to know a little bit more about you and what you do, is there any links or social media profiles we can connect with?
Well, I am on LinkedIn, and I think getting to know me a little bit more, something that maybe isn't in my work, but it is a big part of who I am. And it's actually, what I'm leaning into right now to cope with a very noisy world and a world that's broken in many places is beyond work. I love the arts. I love reading. I love art. I love film. And at the moment, I'm really leaning into film and I'm looking at historical film. I'm looking at creative film that's pushing us into the future and just being taken away through art. And I think it's important that we stay well-rounded and we have those special things. If it's hiking and nature, if it's, culinary arts, if it's media arts, having your special thing is important. The world is shifting in big ways. And so I think it's good to be known in your identity, your craft, what you're working on, your family, but then also what do you take away that's just for you? And I'd say the creative arts is that piece that refreshes me.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. We're excited to see, some upcoming projects that you have in the works. So we're really excited for that. And to our listeners, if you want to connect with Sherry, you can also head on over to thetowofselfconfidence.com and search for Sherry's name. Her show notes will pop up along with everything else that we talked about. And I just want to thank Sherry today for taking the time to share her journey and tips with us on self-confidence. So thank you so much, Sherry.
Thank you, Sheena. Thank you. And thank you for all that you're doing. I mean, you're a great example of paying it forward. This podcast is excellent, having written a book. And so I'm inspired by you. I am appreciative for you having me on the show today.
Oh, thank you. And it was such an honor having you on the show today. And to our listeners, be on the lookout for another new episode of another amazing woman's journey to self-confidence. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye for now. Thank you for tuning in to another amazing episode of The Tao of Self-Confidence. You can order your copy of Asian Women Who Boss Up book by visiting our website at thetowofselfconfidence.com. Your inner journey to self-confidence awaits.